Yo, what's good with you? It's Nia Queen, and we are back at it again with my guy, this famous writer,
She's lying.
author,
Chef.
producer, everything. What this man can't do.
Hey, look, I'm just a small town kid trying to figure it out in this big city. That's all. That's how I characterize
You know,
myself.
Chef Beans in the building.
In the building. But it's not just us today. We got somebody else here today.
We got a talented brother,
Yes.
a very, very talented brother that I met through you.
I know some cool people.
Through this great
I know some cool, talented people.
great play called Transparency. And it was this brother with the breadcrumbs. I said,
It depends the time.
this man is funny.
He was a breadcrumb sometimes. Other times he had some patterns. Hey, the guy got range.
He got range. We got actor, comedian, all the way from Brooklyn.
Mike Houston. Everybody
Mike
give it up for
Houston.
Mike Houston. The guy, the man, the myth, the legend. You might have seen him on your phone, didn't even know it was him, or there was a commercial, an ad. This guy is working, and he has capacity to just keep on working.
Or you might have seen him in court fighting with the girl.
That too. Might have seen him on a couple shows fighting in people's court, family court, but well, very talented dude. Mike, how you feeling today?
I'm feeling good, man. I'm feeling real good. Thank y'all for having me. It was funny. I was just on a FaceTime with my brothers from back school. We all met at my college, and those my brothers for life. And we were just having like an inspirational, just catching up and all this different kind of things. And we were just putting life into each other, like right before this podcast. And I was just like, I'm definitely going to mention this conversation.
Yeah.
It was timely. So I'm feeling rejuvenated now and recharged because of that. It was dope.
That's awesome. Yeah, you did come
I'm
in pretty
happy.
light.
I'm happy to have you here. And I was really like blown away. Now, in the first two plays, he did the breadcrumbs.
Yes.
But then when I saw you this year and you switched it up, I said, "Oh, shit, you're a dramatic actor too.
Yeah, that's
Do
what
both."
That's what stood out in his audition. I'm not gonna lie. Like the very first play, which we've talked about each other's growth. You told me about the script, how it came from freaking pixelated to, the right format and everything. But I remember from his audition, a couple of people were just sending in people, yo, check out them, check out that. I wasn't feeling all of them, but I remember yours because I didn't know you from, I think Atika or somebody told you about it.
Yeah.
I forgot who sent it to you, but I watched it. I'm like, oh, this dude goes. He goes. Oh, yeah.
He takes it there.
Yeah, he's in. So
For sure.
from then, I knew he was a star.
Nah, that was, man, I always say thank you, brother. And especially like we from the East Coast.
Mhm.
Like, that was the first thing when we met. It was just like that energy, that boom, was like that combustion. And I was like, I love that. And that's what I was missing because I haven't been home since I moved to California, 6-7 years. So like meeting Chef and like going at it, and also like where he was in his process. And like writing,
Right.
and it was on the Word doc. I'm like, I love this. This is raw.
Right.
That's how like, I wrote my monologues like that too. Like when I first started, it was like I'm just gonna write. I don't know, and like just that raw energy behind it. It was just like that was so much fun. And for patterns, this one time around, I was like, I want to try something different.
Yeah.
I want to see what
You
happens.
killed that shit too.
Yeah.
You killed that shit.
So that's what we're going to get into today, right? We're going to talk about as far as where we've been, where we are, where we're headed. As far as you talking about you writing shows, we're going to talk about your solo show. We have a bunch of things to talk about because, again, as artists, as creatives, as people who sometimes look at life as a canvas, we try to find different ways to paint it. And however that comes up, sometimes people paint it with the pressures from their parents, so they're not even really operating in their own lane. Some people dig within themselves like, no, this is what I want to do. I don't care what anybody else says. This is what I'm going to do. So we have a lot to unpack.
And just if you've never like listened to the show, this is a mental health podcast, but we want everyday people on here and people of different professions just to see what their process is like, because depending on what profession you're in, it's going to look different for everybody. And, me as a therapist, I'm always trying to get inside the mind of an actor, a comedian, or a doctor. So I'm really happy to finally have a comedian on here. And I feel like comedians for me, like I've gotten through a lot of tough times from watching comedians or watching funny videos of comedians. And I'm like, everybody needs laughter.
Right.
Everybody needs laughter. And you have obviously been doing that. So I'm happy to have you here.
Yeah, and just by the way, if you're listening for the first time, we don't know how this podcast popped up in front of you. You might have been a long time listener from season 1, season 2, season 3. But this is the What's Good With You podcast. Like what Nia was saying, we find out what's good with you, what's really good with you. So if you haven't already, like, comment, subscribe. If you want to like at the end, comment how you felt. It don't matter. We here and it's on. So welcome back to season 3 of What's Good With You podcast, where, like Nia said,
season 4.
Yes. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I started in 2020. That was a minute ago. It's been a minute. It's been a minute. But Mike, I got one question. East Coast or West Coast? East Coast. Okay. I just had to see. I just had to start it off because you say you've been here for a minute now.
I know, and it's my dad was just out here for my birthday, and then we went to the restaurant that I work at as well. It's 3 jobs, Jesus.
Ooh.
And one of the sous chefs, he's from New York too. So I came there, I was dressed. I thought I was just fine. And then my dad came, and homeboy Daquan, that was the name. Daquan was like, "Man, look at Mike. He forgot he's from New York, looking like an LA dude." Like I was like, "Y'all not about to hate on me."
That's funny,
bro. But that's how I feel like low-key. Now it started to hit me like I have been in LA or Cali in general for a long time, and I think I need to go back.
So to restore the feeling.
To restore.
So what made you want to move out here? Because I do see a lot of comedians getting their start in New York as well, and doing the different comedy club circuits that are out there. So what made you want to come out here?
Truth be told, I started comedy last year.
What?
Like literally last September.
Word. Way.
Yeah. So like it's still kind of strange and almost foreign to hear myself like as a comedian, because like
what?
I literally just started. Like it's brand new to me still in a way. I haven't even done 20 shows. I've probably like stand-up shows. Probably done like 11. Since last year.
It seemed like you just been grinding. Like you just be doing it all the time. So I'm shocked.
So to answer your first question, I came out here. I came to California, went to school in San Francisco, but my first school was University of New Haven in Connecticut, first college, and I was running track. And then my track coach, he got offered to come out to San Francisco, and he asked me if I was still interested in acting. And I was like, yeah, because I did like a play in high school. But that was it. But I was always like
theatrical.
Yeah, like, So then finally I made that move 2016 and went to school for acting but just started comedy last year.
That is funny, but I'm not surprised. It's a commonality that I'm noticing in a lot of actors. We were talking about how everybody got multiple jobs.
Right.
I'm noticing a lot of actors also jumping on that stage, and I don't know if it's part of unlocking things within yourself as far as I don't know, like certain emotions, but I'm seeing a lot of actors and actresses also jump more into the improv space or the stand-up space. And again, I don't know if that's a theme or if it's something they've always wanted to do, if their acting teacher challenged them to do it. I don't know, but everybody in this funny as you. I've been to a couple of these shows. Some people doing this kind of like, woo, but you're actually really funny.
Nah,
so
I appreciate that. I mean, all my life, and looking back, like all my life, I've been surrounded by comedy. Like my mom used to do Marge Simpson voices when I was younger, like random vocal things. My dad, he's very quick-witted. Like he just always got something to say. And that's probably a New York thing in general. But it's just like, especially coming from New York, you gotta know how to cut ass, especially like in school.
Yeah,
like,
because
they will
y'all
violate
rude.
you.
No, like So what with West Coast, what some West Coast people think is like rude or whatever, is like the East Coast norm. But then being inside the East Coast, being that's the norm, is notches that it's levels where it's like, you gotta have tough skin.
But why is that though? I just, being from the West Coast, like, why do you think that's a thing? Like, why you gotta know how to roast somebody? Like, what is that? Is that just the culture?
Generational things. And, it's a lot of it is ego based. We have our egos all throughout the country, but what I've noticed, at least, being out west is a lot more calmer. The weather is a lot nicer all year round, so sometimes you can be easier to lean into. I'll get to it tomorrow, or I get to it later. I want to go to the beach right now. The East Coast, especially when it's cold outside, you want things to happen then and there because we not going to just continue to have this long conversation. So I think within that, then it being very blue collar, braggadocious to a sense, you either got it or you don't. And if you don't got it, you probably being talked about by the people who do got it. But you might not be soft, so you're not going to let them play you out. So sometimes jokes can turn into fights or whatever. And it's just this thing that's just been passed down. So when I circle back to ego, is you really care about how you look walking outside the crib. And it's Biggie said it in his song. Like, I can't think of the song, but he said something about my clothes. Blah, punch him in the face. Right. That's just that's the culture.
Damn.
I can't think of the lyric. I wish I did. No, I gotta think.
Damn, it's a different world on that side.
Nah, that's true. I didn't think about that. It is.
It's appearance. It's ego and appearance based.
Yeah. And I wasn't. I'm still not an appearance type person. It wasn't really until I moved to LA where it's like, I remember when I moved during COVID. I was looking busted. This is when I was working on Insecure. I was looking busted. Just hair. We was wearing masks. I wasn't shaved or whatever. So then finally for the rap party, like, I got it together, cut my hair, all that. They didn't know who I was. Like, literally.
Damn,
there was
like
a couple
that.
people like who came like, Michael? I was like, but it's like I never been that New Yorker in a way where it's like I was like, my J's gotta be fresh. I gotta come out with the everything. True Religions at the time, like all of that. North Face.
Y'all do be dressing good though.
Y'all
do be dressing good,
and that's the part I want to connect to. Like, now that I'm older, I always say I feel like I'm more New York now that I'm in LA and an adult than when I was in New York as a kid. Because again, I didn't really care. I was just like,
right.
whatever.
Right. You was just enjoying yourself.
Yeah.
So you said earlier that you just started comedy a year ago. What was the motivation behind that?
I think honestly I started writing my own monologues, working with you, and then it's like I've always written stuff down. I just never really performed it officially. Technically, the first time that I did stand up was I was hosting a show in high school at this running camp, my track thing, and they needed a host. And I was just writing down jokes. I don't know why. Like, I was writing stuff down. And then they said, I asked the camp counselor, I said, can I host the show? And he was like, well, normally I do. His name was Bart, white guy. You talk about ego. Very to himself, into himself. And I was like, can I host it? He said, let me think about it. So then the next day, and this is God, the next day, we on the hill, we having a meeting, we talking about the show, what's going to come up for the talent show. And he said, by the way, there's a guy here who wants to host the show. So let's see what he got. Come on up, Michael, in front of everybody.
Oh, damn.
He put me on the spot, but I was prepared.
He was ready.
I came with it. And I talked about, I don't know, I was something with Batman and Maria Sharapovich. I was doing Batman voice, whatever the case is. But I hosted the show, and looking back, like, that was my first time doing stand-up, but not knowing anything about it.
Right.
But it wasn't until last year, it was just like, finally, I'm like, you know what? I do like performing on stage. I love theater. Like, I love live performance. So I was like, let me just do it.
So I always wondered, like, for a stand-up comedian, because when you get up on stage, like, you're by yourself. And, like, I would be terrified. Like, just me by myself on the stage, and I have to make people laugh. Like, what is that like? Do you have to do something to prepare for that? Or do you just have it in you and you just go, like, you don't care?
It wasn't until a class on Saturday, 2 Saturdays ago, the acting class, that I realized basically the technique was about being in your body and sensing what's going on in your body. And I'm sure, like, therapists do the same thing.
Like mindfulness. Yeah.
And I'm very big on mindfulness in general, walking, meditation, all these different kind of things. But I didn't realize that part of my animated side is almost a shield in a way. And when I was on stage, I was doing a monologue. He said, stop. What's going on in your body? And I was like explaining, and he said, do the monologue again. I felt so vulnerable. I never felt that vulnerable. And I lead with that because prior to that, I always said I'm never nervous on stage.
Mm.
I've never had like stage fright. I'll just go. I'll just do it. And for me personally, like part of comedy for me, what made it easy was that I'm a theater actor as well. So I'm used to kind of just
Playing a character.
something happen, playing a character, but more importantly, like just going with the audience.
Okay.
Like if something happens on stage in a theater performance, you just got to go with it.
Throw with the punches.
You gotta roll the,
Yeah.
You can't cut. You can't know another take. You just go. So then for like comedy, was just like I'm already an animated individual, so it's like
Right.
boom. It just now I'm just like writing jokes and really structuring it and still learning the craft of it.
Mm-hmm.
But nah, I don't. I can't speak more so on the stage fright part because I never had stage fright.
I know that's
But
right.
there was a protective element that I didn't notice I was having until I had the acting class that I'm still unpacking.
You're just multifaceted.
That's interesting. You know, last time, well, in the past, we were talking about the Tyler Perry movie that just came out.
Oh, this not the
What's
slave
it? Some
one.
the
Blue.
son. I can't think of her name.
I forgot the mom's name, but
Can you look? Can you try?
Yeah,
Because I'm
I'll
trying
look
to
it
think
up.
of it
I'll
because
look it
I
up.
want to make sure. So he has one on Amazon Prime right now, but he brings it up because he talked about how his art and the way he writes is somewhat of a shield, and it's a shield because when he started off writing, it was unaddressed parts that he hasn't communicated to certain parents or whatever like that, and I kind of connect with that as well because sometimes I question if Chef Beans is like a shield. You know what I mean? Like if Chef Beans is something that I created to be like a bolder part of myself that I felt like I wasn't connecting with Quan.
Right.
You know, and I just kept building and monetizing and shit like that. But there's times where metaphorically that I gotta take the chef hat off, that I gotta be able to address. So I think that's very honorable that you spoke up or you had the strength to identify that. Yeah. Because a lot of people do put hats on. A lot of people do put mask or makeup or certain clothes on. We talked about ego. Talk about how people dress themselves to hide that childlike version of themselves. So it's interesting also connecting with that as a comedian.
It's Maxine's baby.
Maxine's baby,
that
yes.
was a fantastic
Yeah.
Sorry, Tyler Perry. Couldn't think of.
Yeah,
remember.
we was like,
Yeah, I knew it was
a movie. I'm like, wait, he did have a movie, but the documentary.
Yes,
Yeah,
the documentary.
the documentary.
Maxine's
was good.
baby.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I meant.
And that was one of the questions that I had. Like, do you have to like put on a mask? Because if you're doing a comedy show, but you had a shitty day, like your car gets totaled or your car gets broken into, and you know you have to perform that night, like how do you get in that mode, in that mindset to still perform and make people laugh when you feeling shitty?
It's so weird being asked these questions because like I feel like I'm still new, like, but
Right.
it's like I think any kind of performance, whether it be stand up, acting, even when we're performing in life, in our social circles and stuff,
Going to work.
you know, going to
Right.
work, family. Like my mom, and I think this is where I get it from. She would something, her ankle will be swollen, something be going on with her health wise, but she would still be the life of the party. And you know, to a degree, it works, and of course, there's repercussions because you still got to take care of yourself.
Right.
But, it's the same way. Partly, it's the same way how we move in life. But you know, when we're in front of people, if you're not a performer, that can be frightening.
Right.
But my track coach always said, Mike, focus on the next event. Like I would mess up my 200 event. He said, you got the 400. Focus on the 400. Like leave what's done is done.
Right.
Move on. So I guess my athletic background as well. It's like you just keep moving.
Right.
Keep moving.
You can't get stuck on your mistakes because
Yeah.
then you start to overthink, you know, what you're doing. And I was thinking too about, you know, a lot of comedians recently like have been getting like fake canceled like because of what they say on stage, and you know their jokes are maybe distasteful to certain audiences. So I was gonna ask you the same thing, like, do you have to monitor like what you say, or are you just like, I'm gonna say it, if they don't like it then oh well, I'm moving on?
Yeah.
But it just seems like I don't want to say people are sensitive, but it's just like, you know, just enjoy the
No, it is.
show.
That's what it is. It's a hypersensitive time that we're in, and not saying people haven't always been feeling this way, but I feel like the social media era that they're in, it kind of gives everybody a platform or everybody an opportunity to voice themselves quicker.
Right.
Not saying they didn't feel this way back then, because of course people have gone on strike, people have done different things, but now you can see something in real time and post it in real time, and that can get from here to China or
Right.
anywhere at once. But yeah, back to, I guess, the question she was asking, how do you approach your jokes when it comes to some things potentially being hurtful or uplifting, offensive?
Yeah.
Although we're living in a hypersensitive time, I think now we're seeing a strong pushback against it.
Right.
It's more like we want more truth. We want like the ability to just express, and knowing that it's not coming from a malicious place.
Right.
That's the main thing. And I feel like these Twitter, social media warriors and all these things, it's like they want to rally behind or just cause a scene just so they can get noticed.
Right.
Behind what they're
It's
saying.
a tug of war for attention-seeking behavior.
Right.
Exactly. And it's just like, come on, bro. Like, it ain't that serious. But I think at least, like, I know. Wait.
You good? You good?
Well, no. I mentioned like the Israel and Palestinian conflict. One of my sets, but I did like a joke around like, because I said it's hard being out here. I got Cash App. They're doing relief for Israel and Palestine. Just $ Michael Houston. Like I just did that. The little thing, whatever. But
did you get any pushback from that?
Nah. But
Okay.
I mean, like, I feel like, again, if there's no malice behind it, people can sense that. Like, when you're in a room, in theater, in stand-up, like, you can sense a comedian's energy. And then, most importantly, if the comedian is unsure, the same thing with acting. If you don't know what you're saying, or if there's, even as you're saying it, but there's no intention behind what you're saying, there's no clarity on the actor's part, or the comedian's part, the audience will pick that up.
Right.
And it's like they will eat you alive. It's like, that's you unsure about it, so I'm damn sure unsure about it.
Right.
So I'm not gonna rock with it.
Yeah.
It's a weird dynamic.
Yeah. And I feel like, you have to be able to make light of things to get through some of those hard things. So it's just like, why is everybody so, sensitive? And yeah, I just see that all the time. And I'm just like, navigating that, it's like, kudos to you, because I would just be like, damn, should I say this or should I say
feel
that?
like now, and I came to this during my meditation, shower meditation. Showers be blessing.
Shower meditation.
I like stand in my shower for like an hour and just like,
wow,
these things just come. It's just like it's my form of meditation,
right?
But comedians, at least the greats, the good ones, they're the shadow workers of the world. What I mean by that is like there's the shadow self, all those different kind of things, and the good ones, they bring up the things that exist in society that we don't say out loud. But when they say it and they rap it in a humorous way, it makes sense.
Right.
It's palatable. But just by itself, bare bones is like, that's too much.
Right.
But a comedian, a good one, the greats, like they say things that make sense, and it's like, oh, this is hilarious. But it leaves you thinking as well too. Cat Williams does it all the time. Bernie, obviously, Richard, Eddie, Dave, like, yeah. I think good comedians are the greats, are like the shadow workers of society, of that art form, bringing stuff to the light and making it palatable for us.
Now that's, you spot on with that, man, because again, when it comes to comedy, I feel like there was an era where I kind of stepped away from it and only watched old comedies or stand-ups that I enjoyed, because I felt like for a while, again, it was either comedians who were teetering against the things that they didn't want to talk about, or certain things just seemed forced. But I don't want to label it as like the up and coming era of comedy, or because it's more raw, it's more unapologetic. It seems like some people, not all, but the bigger you get, that's when it becomes more PC or more political, or I can't say that, commercialized, and it's like, nah. But again, like, I really enjoy the stand-ups that I went to from yours, and I'm grateful that you said that there's pushback on that now, because again, if we're going to say we have freedom of speech, some things are completely probably you shouldn't say in certain rooms, but I feel like there has to be a space where this is what you signed up for. This is you
Right.
want to go somewhere to laugh. If you don't laugh or you don't find something hilarious, that doesn't mean you should really go out your way to kind of bash somebody. It's okay to
Right.
just say, now I know this person isn't for me.
Right.
Right.
There's not enough people just saying this isn't for me.
Right.
Right.
There's people like this isn't for me, and
Yeah.
You're wrong. You're this. Yeah.
and let me do everything in my power to shut you down.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
That's where
Mm.
things get tricky.
Right.
But yeah,
true.
you got it under control. But I want to get back to this dramatic performance, these patterns, because I noticed with a lot of like comedic actors that they're also really good in the dramatic roles as well.
Should I give them a breakdown of what patterns is before we?
Oh,
Yes, yes.
Yes. So for those of you who aren't aware of what she means by patterns, there's a play that I created called Transparency the Play. That's a series of dialogue as well as several monologues. And one of the monologues that Mike performed was called Patterns, that dealt with the result of what unaddressed vices could lead to. So that's the best way that I can explain it without giving it away, because you feel me? You gotta pay for that. But that ultimately that's what the theme of Patterns was about: unaddressed vices and the result of what that could lead to.
And so, where do you think that comes from? Because I feel like, I don't want to say that a lot of comedians have traumatic lives, but I feel like they're pulling from something.
Right.
You know, they're pulling from something deeper. And I'm just trying to figure out what is that commonality with the comedic actors that they're able to do the dramatic roles so good as well.
No, I'm laughing because my friend Grant, he never saw me. I knew him from school. He only saw me do dramatic stuff. He only knew me as an actor. He never, like, people out in LA, they know me as a comedian. Actors, well, but newer people, I don't say newer people now that I'm getting more acclimated with, more as a comedian. But it's like, I went to school for acting, you know. But beyond that, I think it's a multi-layered thing, because comedy is multi-layered as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, you know, when you're a comedian, your brain works in a way where it's like you can't help but to just pick apart everything. Like, you don't just see something, oh, let me be angry. No, you see why you're angry. Where's this anger going to? How far can I be angry? Like, you just so many different things that surrounding me.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's very true. A lot of dramatic actors, they can't do comedy, but
comedic actors.
They did. Like,
yeah.
Jim Carrey, he bodied Eddie Murphy.
Eddie
like,
Murphy,
and
yeah.
Dreamgirls. Oh my God! When Jimmy Early, when he was doing the coke on the table, and she was like, "Jimmy, baby, just come on, stop, just stop." He looked at her, and that look, and people kept saying that look right there, he should have won the Oscar. But Jamie Foxx, another one,
Right?
Like, I think it's just like comedy.
It makes you well rounded. I feel like adding that comedian bone to your resume.
Right.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You just, because, like, again, you just, it's a gumbo, it's a stew. It's like it has different flavors and flavor profiles, and you know, it's like if you are from, let's say, just hypothetically, you're from the Mediterranean, you're from Greece, you're used to Mediterranean type flavors and food. You're an expert on that. But let's say if you're from New York, or you're from the East Coast, or you're from a place where there's like multiple flavors and multiple flavor profiles. It's like you got Caribbean, you got Indian, you got Middle Eastern, you got Mediterranean, you got Asian, you got a whole bunch of different. I talk about food a lot 'cause I love food.
Yeah,
I love
see.
cooking. But like, it's a great analogy. It's like, it's different flavors. So when you come from that environment, it's like, oh yeah, I can cook this Asian dish. Like, I just made lamb fried rice literally today because I had some extra white rice from some curry chicken that I made last week, and then I had a lamb that was about to go bad, so I said I gotta cook this. Got sesame oil, some soy sauce, some egg, fried rice.
Right.
But it's like with comedy or comedic actors, it's the same thing. It's like, it's different levels where you can just access.
Right.
It's like, just go.
And then what you're saying is like, since you were already trained as an actor, that it's not really that hard for you because you had the training and you had the chops before you got into it.
That's an LA answer. Let me scratch that. Honestly, it's just I've been exposed to a lot of different things in life, and especially like TV and watching film and just like Martin, like just different shows and I'm very observant.
Right.
And it's just like, oh, I remember the actor did this. Let me see how I can replicate it, how I can feel for it in myself.
Right.
So, yeah.
You know what I'm getting from having this conversation with you? Comedy is not as isolated that I think people make it. And I say that because I feel like, which we touched on a little bit earlier, in all of our lives where some things are seemingly performative. We're going to the job and it's the coworker who we can't stand,
Right.
but we got to operate because we got bills to pay. So we might turn into something as opposed to how we actually feel.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I was thinking about Will Smith because, you know, obviously he's an amazing actor, dramatic actor and comedic actor. But when I was reading his book, he was talking about how when he grew up, he tried to keep the peace in the house. So he tried to be the jokester. And like, even though he felt scared, you know, of his father, he, you know, always tried to bring joy to everybody else. And that's how he's able to, you know, that's where he pulls from the dramatic roles and then the comedic roles. So yeah, it is like performative in a way, but not like in a bad way,
Right.
not in a fake way. But it's just like, we gotta keep the family together. We gotta save face in order to make it through today. So let me use my talents, you know, to make everything all right.
That was a revelation for me.
Yeah.
I think that's what part of who I am, a part of my makeup, if you will. Because my parents got divorced when I was 5, but I never saw my parents in love. And we have this conversation now, but I never saw them in love. It was just always emotion and yelling, all these different kind of things. So like, I would isolate myself from like, I would play my video games. I'm a gamer. That's my go-to. But then also in a way where it's just like, all right, everybody, let's, you know, whatever. And similar to Will in that fashion, not as, you know, severe as his. Yeah. But definitely like part of it, I sensed that just now as you spoke about it. Cool question though. Did you read Jada's book?
I did. Well, I listened to it on Audible.
Okay,
I just finished it.
Okay.
It was great.
Yeah.
We actually talked about that last episode.
Yo, facts.
Yeah, we talked about it last episode, but it was great. It was great. Yeah.
I'm going to listen to it.
Yeah, definitely check that out. But just thinking about like the famous comedians and actors and being in the limelight, right? A lot of people, they fall to their vices. You know, I'm thinking about a lot of comedians that either, you know, I'm thinking about Robin Williams specifically, you know, you would think that he's the most, you know, funniest, happiest person, and his demise was by suicide. And then also a lot of comedians that we lost early on to, you know, drugs or alcohol or whatever the case may be. Just wondering, where do you think that comes from? Do you feel like navigating Hollywood or navigating the entertainment industry that it's easy to fall into that? And what do you do to maintain?
I think most importantly is to have some kind of solid foundation. Many of like these child actors, child stars, all these different people, they came into the industry young, so they didn't really have like that core group of, not even just family, because family they could be
Right,
too.
Exactly. They could take advantage of you.
Yeah, but like even like friends, when I look at, you know, I spoke about my brothers, like they're my foundation. Like they're the ones that's like, and my family too, my mom, my dad, like they're the ones that's like, I'm grounded. But then also, and I talk about this with them as well, we watch these things happen, you know, with these celebrities, and it's like we at least for me personally, I thank God that I'm still on the track going up, because I'm observing, but then also I'm establishing who Michael is. I feel like a lot of people, they don't establish who they are,
Mm.
and then they
Yeah.
get in, and then they influenced, and other people tell them who they are, and all these different kind of things. But then, like, vice wise, I mean, I feel we all got our vices, and fame and popularity, whatever, exacerbates them. But the ease of access to these vices,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I'll never forget when I was in San Francisco. I went to a day party, regular day party, playing Connect Four, and dude just pull out a bag of coke, boom, slap it on the table. He said, "Yo, you want to hit?" And it took me a minute because I never seen coke in real life. Like, I've never. It was Ziploc bag. Everything that I've seen in the movies,
Right.
it was right there on that table, and I was. Nah, I'm good, man. Like, it was like, yo, but just the ease of access
Right.
to these things, especially at these parties and
Oh,
all these
yeah.
different kind of things. Like, I'm now going out a bit more to these events and stuff, and I can easily tell they on something.
Mm.
It's the sweating, the instant sweat, and just the profuse. I'm just like, y'all on something. But I think navigating that, it's about establishing who you are outside of all of that.
Right.
You know,
What's your identity
What's your
outside
identity
of?
outside of that, and not being swayed easily. You know, not like partaking if you don't want to. Like, no, I'm good.
Right. It's really like how you respond to things when you're either feeling unbalanced or when you might seemingly feel pressured.
Right.
Because
Right.
we're out here on the West Coast. If you look in Skid Row, those are some of the most talented people you probably ever met in your life. Some of them, some of the best actors, or used to be this, used to be that. But again, sometimes when those vices get a grip on that ankle
Right.
or whatever, it's hard to shake off. But it's access, literally just echoing everything Mike said out here. I've been in spaces where I'm like,
Whoa. Yeah.
I see why my mom always told me to make sure I keep my cup close to me when I'm in the spaces.
Right.
I see why mama always told me to.
Yo.
All those childhood lessons start to pop up, but again, I think we're kind of all saying the same thing.
Right.
Can't think of the James Baldwin quote. I might have said it before. I'm gonna try to paraphrase it, but ultimately he said, "Your suffering doesn't isolate you; it is your bridge."
Mm.
And the reason why that always hits me a lot, because sometimes we try to look at certain things as, why do these group of people do this, or these group of people do that, or these group of people do that? But ultimately, I think we're all on this journey of like healing, processing, learning to adapt, identifying where we got our foresight from and how we respond to foresight. If we got foresight, it's just a combination of things, but it's just a breath of fresh air to kind of hear that we're still all figuring out, regardless of perception or label.
I like this. I like that quote, right? And I live by a quote: "Light can only be understood by the wisdom of darkness." I live by that, and that is something like I just take with me anytime something happens or whatever. It's just like, okay, for some, it's like, what's the lesson I can learn from this or whatever. But just encapsulating in that, it's like, there is wisdom, there is stuff to be learned from these dark times or these dark moments. And even if it doesn't affect you directly, you can witness something else that's dark over there. And it makes you think about things in your own life. And it's like, okay, how can I change, or whatever the case is. So yeah, I agree.
Right. And it's good that you have that foundation, because I feel like when you're aware of yourself and you also have a good support system, that you're able to remain solid. And I was just thinking about also, when you're in the entertainment industry, you could also feel pressure to, kind of one up yourself. Like, dang, I did so good in this movie and this show. How am I going to top that? But like you said earlier on, like, you just got to keep going. It's not about, oh, let me do better than this, than this, than this, and this. Just keep going and, do your best. So that's good that you have that good foundation, because all these stories that's been coming out about the entertainment industry and what's been going on behind closed doors.
Yeah. Well, that's, yeah. And we're all human. We all got our ish that we got to deal with.
Right.
And I definitely got mine, and I'm definitely looking to get into therapy, because there's some stuff that I'm realizing, like, I can't do it on my own in my head. Like, I can't, like, at all, especially coming into the new year.
Y'all hear that?
It's like, it's very, very important to have that outside perspective that hopefully you can connect with, and it's just like, okay, let me unpack some things, because I can watch my Iyanla fix my life all day long, because I'm a fan of Iyanla. I stand by her. I listen to her podcast, all of that. I'm a fan of healing in general. But there's come a point where that's why in many traditional cultures, they have a shaman. They have those who are older in life who can help pull you through different stages. Even with men, it didn't even hit me like, for men in these cultures, there's an initiation process going into manhood.
Like rite of passage.
That rite of passage that's like not like present here in America, and especially in our communities as much. I think now men are coming together for that. But yeah, that's traditional to us as a people as well. Those rites of passages, those initiations, that's outside of the whole religious realm of things. It's just life things that older people, men, women, can help the younger ones get through.
Because you might not always see that light at the end of the tunnel. Right. And I just got into an argument with somebody because they were like, well, I know my problems. I know me the best. So I should be able to work it out. I don't need a stranger to tell me. But sometimes we do need somebody on the outside because we're so close to it. It's literally, we don't even know what it is because it's so in front of our face. So I like that you said that, because I just feel like I want more Black men to get comfortable with going to therapy and understanding sometimes you don't have all the answers. Just because you know what's going on in there, you might not know where it comes from. You might not know how to stop it. You might not know how to manage it. So, people, I'm always going to advocate for therapy. I'm a therapist. But
you in therapy too? Or have you?
I've done therapy. The last time I fully was in therapy was in college, my last year. It was just recommended to me. I kind of went into it with big ego, like I'm just here, blah, blah, blah. Somebody told me I grinded my teeth at night. And I went on Google, like, what does this mean? Say, are you anxious, whatever. So I'm like, let me figure it out. But the reason why I appreciate therapy so much is like you're cleaning up your apartment or whatever like that. Then you have the one person to come in, not in a very overly observative way, but it's like you missed this spot. It is like that spot you didn't know. You moved past it 1,000 times. You said, oh, no, that's just that. But that dust is eventually going to turn into dust bunnies, and it's going to continue to grow and build. Or if you keep saying you got things cleaned up or trying to shove your clothes in a closet and closing the door and be like, the apartment's clean. It's not. It's not. It's just seemingly clean. So I appreciate therapy for the things that it helped me to unpack that just went back to childhood, and I'm still unpacking things on the daily, but I'm going to definitely get back into it because just having like that person non-biased opinion on the things and how you operate is definitely beneficial.
Yeah, get back into therapy.
I think I'm going to get back into it because, again, I'm trying to unpack this. Who really is Chef Beans?
Right.
He's talented as hell. He can kill. No, seriously, like,
yeah.
I'm able to identify this character that's very talented, who can write, who has charm and all these different things, but I don't know if it's like this glamorized version of myself that I'm running from. But it's effective. It's efficient. It's working. The proof is in the pudding. We selling out shows. We got pop merch. It's kind of like, no, it's not even harmful. Right. But is there things that sometimes people create, whether they're putting themselves on the stage, whether they're acting in these roles, whether they're going to these jobs every day that they might not necessarily like, but they're going because bills are paid? Is that an activity or a routine that's created for you to run away from other parts of yourself? And that could be a rhetorical question. It could be a question that I sometimes ask myself. I trip into it sometimes in the shower therapy. Maybe that's probably when I'm like, all right, cut this water on. I gotta go. You know what I mean? When they say you can't fly too close to the sun, it's things that's been coming up recently. So I'm gonna unpack them. However I unpack them, whether that's through therapy, it's not gonna be harmful vices, but because it's on my mind and I'm speaking about it out loud, I know it's something that has to at least be addressed.
Right. And I'm also thinking about the more successful you get, the more things are going to come up.
And the more you run.
Right. Because he talked about access to things. So you're going to have access to different things that you didn't have before. So there's going to be new things that you might have to deal with.
And the more access is the bigger button of the do not disturb or the snooze when it comes to certain things that's trying to wake you up.
Right.
It's easy. It's easier to be like, oh, I'm gonna just fly to this country.
Right.
Oh, this is. Oh, I just got this role.
Burying yourself in your work. Yeah.
There was a moment that I had maybe like 2-3 years ago during shower therapy because I feel like somewhere later on in life I would go to school for counseling and to become certified and all that kind of stuff. But silence and why some people, I remember when I was younger, my friend used to put on headphones to study. I'm like, how can you study while music is playing? Like how, or he would just need music to always be playing. And it kind of just hit me in my own little intuition. Silence, some people I feel like don't like silence because silence is when God is speaking to you the most. But most importantly, when all the things that your body, because we're self-healing organisms. So all the things that we are avoiding starts to come up in that silence. The voices, the things that we have to fix, the generational traumas that's been passed down, like all these things come up. And silence for many is uncomfortable because it's just you.
Right.
So I was just watching this video earlier today about identifying your authentic self. Who are you without the materialistic things, without the career, without the partner, without anything other than just you? Who are you? And that's something I want to try to discover in myself, but that sparked the thought. Like, who are we without the mics and without the camera? Like, who are we? And it could be very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
like to kind of get it out. Like, it's even right now, I feel uncomfortable because it's like,
wow, we getting deep on this.
Nah, for real. Like, it's so interesting.
But that was one of the main reasons why I started What's Good With You in the pandemic, because mental illness grew by like over 50% because of the solitude. You have to deal with all your issues now because you can't go anywhere. Right. So that was the main reason. I was like, I see a lot of people struggling, not knowing what to do, what's the next step to take. And I wanted this platform to be that for people. Right. But we could go on and on. We could go on and on. But I'm gonna switch gears a little bit because I want to talk more about what you got going on and also your one-man show. We can't skip that.
Right. I'm still tight. I wasn't able to make it that day, man. I'm tight, but I've heard great things about it, man.
And I was able to catch some clips, doing my research on you, and I was just like, a one-man show? Like, you really gotta be a different breed to do a show by yourself. How long was the show?
It was almost an hour.
An hour?
Yeah, almost an hour, yeah.
Oh, wow. So how did you even come up with that concept of, let me just do a one-man show? Like, what was the motivation?
Twofold. 3, technically. It was one, I remember seeing Robert Townsend's one-man show in Berkeley. I took my brother to go see him, who's a huge fan of Robert Townsend. I was a Temptations guy. He was a 5 Heartbeats. So, you feel me? Like, but I saw his show, and it was so energetic. It was so powerful. He was moving all over the stage. Like, he was like going at it. And this is the first time I ever seen Robert Townsend,
right,
outside of 5 Heartbeats.
Right.
And it was electrifying, really. So that always stayed in my mind. I'm like, I want to do a one-man show, but I don't know on what or about what. 2, being a part of Transparency and his drive to do his own thing and write his own stuff. I'm like, well, I do write my own stuff too. And then 3, I'm like, I'm not about to wait for no one to cast me in something. Because I said I wanted to do a play. I want to be back on stage. This is right after the pandemic. And I'm like, I'm not about to wait. Like, whatever. So all those 3 things combined. And then finally, I was working as an office PA on a show, and I ordered a bacon, egg, and cheese, New York thing. Always bacon, egg, and cheese. I called downstairs to the cafe downstairs. I said, can I have a bacon, egg, and cheese on a croissant? I'm bougie now. croissant. And he was like, do you want 1 strip of bacon or 2? I looked at my phone. I said, "What?"
I've never been asked that.
What?
Like literally, I was like, "That's what my show's gonna be about." Bacon, egg, and cheese on the California Bagel. It's gonna be about a New Yorker's journey to California.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, typically one person shows is about somebody's own journey, but for me, I needed to connect it internally. I didn't want to just do it just because.
Right.
I wanted to have a story and I wanted to connect. And then finally, I'm like, yes, this is what I've been experiencing since I moved to California. Stupid shit. Can I curse? I'm sorry.
Yes, you can curse.
Stupid things.
My bad. I don't know what that was. Somebody banging?
Banging on the door.
Sound like somebody walking.
Oh, probably.
Yeah, I don't know if that feedback came up. Did you hear it on the mic?
Yeah, but we could just cut it out.
Yeah, we'll cut it out. But
nah. So from that point on, I was like, okay, this is what my one-man show is going to be about. My journey from New York to California, starting from when my track coach called me and was like, I'm going to Cali. Do you want to come? But nah, that was a fun experience. I feel like I still haven't processed it in a way, and I want to do it bigger and better. But yeah, I just did it. I didn't even feel like, even sometimes when people like, did you did? And I'm like, I just did it. You know, it's like, it's another thing. But,
right.
But it is something to be proud of.
Absolutely.
For sure. And it's like, yeah, it was a lot of fun. My whole family, and actually, this was the most important thing for me. It was the first time my entire family, from both my mom and dad's side, was together in the same room. Specifically, my mother and father and myself all together in the same room. Been like over 10 years since the last time we was all together. Because leading up to that, a little bit before my departure to California, it was always tension between the two and all of that. Just a little bit, but over time it's gotten better, and now, you know, everything is cool now. But that was really special for me to see my parents both there and them being a part of my story as well.
Right.
It was a good time.
Yeah. That's amazing. What's that quote that you said in your play about not waiting for opportunity, but creating opportunity?
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't remember it verbatim, but ultimately is that. It's like sometimes that's what similar. That's what got me out here. I had my old supervisor was giving me notes on my performance. She was like, "Yo, Quan, can I be honest with you?" She said, "Sometimes I feel like you wait for opportunities then creating it." And she said it to me, hit me like a sack of bricks. But that same quote is the same thing that led me to quit. Like, you right. I shouldn't be in this. I need to take my talents out west.
Right.
I think I quit a month after that. I don't know how much longer, but yes, it's that. It's like doing something because you said so, and regardless how everybody else respond to it, making sure you take the time to be proud.
Right.
Because it took action. It came from somewhere. When you were writing it, whether you're writing it in the notepad in your phone, however, those were real feelings. What? How many pieces of bacon? Right. All of that is what we go through and we transmute into art.
Right.
And that's what art is on all levels.
Right.
It had to come from somewhere.
Right.
Most of Tyler Perry things, he spoke about his abuse in Maxine's Baby.
Yeah.
Right.
So the things that we laugh at are sometimes the same things that make us bawl out crying because we connect too much to them.
Right.
So yeah, I'm not going to spiral because, you know, we was talking about Home Alone and all that other stuff earlier. I'm not going to spiral, but it's things that we laugh at that also kind of like stick some needles in us, whether we can connect to them or not. It's just kind of like, it's that.
Right. Helps us get through it. Helps us get through it, for sure.
That's the beauty of comedy. It's like those needles that we pull out, those needles of trauma and pain and all those different kind of things. Laughter, the medicine, the Band-Aid, the remedies that help us really close up those wounds and get through those wounds and those pains. I was told to get closer to the mic.
Right. But even to that, Chef Beans was telling me before we started recording, because I was telling him about all the stuff I've been going through. And he was just like, no, you going to have a good 2024 because you went through all this stuff. And it's like the same thing. Like when you were just saying, like with comedy, you know, some of our darkest times is also the things that we laugh at. So it's just like we have to use that as fuel or as a way to get to where we need to be.
Mm-hmm. Because we all have our unique stories, and I think just taking advantage of the opportunity to transmute it, because others transmute it different ways. It's some
with
people
that bag of Coke.
It's some people who transmute it into that vice. It's some people who
right.
transmute it into potentially taking someone's life.
Right.
I don't like the trauma you caused in my life, so
Right.
and I haven't figured out how to manage it or mitigate these feelings.
Yeah.
So boom. So shout out to people learning healthy ways how to respond to things that make them feel balanced or things that they weren't comfortable with, because it's so many, it's layers, so many layers.
It's layers.
I'm a big I love shadow work and like people, you know, Carl Jung and the Jungian philosophy, and just there's the side. I mean, there's the sun and there's the moon. Like everything has its polar opposite. Not every day will be a light, bright, optimistic, positive day, and it's transmuting those dark days. You know, when it's nighttime, what do you do during nighttime? You go through your self-care routine. There's different things that you do during each part of the day. And like I could think of like Quentin Tarantino. His movies are violent. To me, his shadow self is being expressed to whatever degree. I don't know what kind of traumas that man had in his past, but like a lot of artists, they do, singers and songwriting and stuff like that. It's very fascinating when you recognize your shadow and how to actually use it in a healthy manner,
right?
And you know, make it work for you.
And now you already answered my last question. You already answered like how you deal with, you know, your trauma and how you deal with, you know, the things that you're going through. You transmute it into your work. So I don't need to ask that question. I don't need to ask that question.
That's what I need to go to therapy for. Like my shadow, I feel like, and I could be wrong. This is why an outside perspective is always important. But from my understanding, my shadow is more of like dealing with that emotional baggage that was placed on me when I was younger, by my parents, like the divorce, and like witnessing those raw emotions. I early on began to shut down of my own emotions because I seen what raw emotions can do. So naturally, I just shut down or shied away from it, to where now I get uncomfortable with intimacy. Like, not uncomfortable in a way where it's like I feel like I'm gonna mess it up, so I do something to mess it up.
Self-sabotage.
Right.
Ghosted.
Right.
Literally. So like I'm still working that and like those vices, and just it's but you know, and I'm now, and it's so strange. I don't know if it's what's the word? Imposter syndrome. I don't know if it's that, but I still have a hard time considering myself to be an artist. I don't know what it is. I don't know, because that word is always used, and I hate like things being just said just because.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So it's like I don't know how yet to consider myself without feeling the imposter syndrome or working through the imposter syndrome. But most importantly, what else am I contributing as an artist? Like, can I own that word? I don't know.
So there's pros and cons to that approach. The con to that approach is, again, sometimes you're not giving yourself the flowers for the work that you did as an artist, as the people you've worked with, or whatever you created yourself. The pro to that is understanding your capacity. You're so much larger than that. So sometimes people attach their word to that. And we're not going to compare ourselves to others, but it's kind of like, all right, cool. But it's like, if you want to call me an artist, cool, but I'm more of a philanthropist. Like, the things that I do, It's kind of like community service. This is always who I've naturally been.
Right.
So that title sometimes, and again, that's what I said. It's however you choose to perceive it. But I'm whatever you want to call me be. Just know I'm gonna do what I feel like doing in every moment.
Right.
It might be comedy one day.
Right.
It might be acting.
Right.
I might feel like swimming or doing a triathlon. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
But understand, Mike Houston was in this bitch.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
what you're gonna know at the end of it.
And
So-
whatever you're doing it well.
That's what I'm
Let
saying.
me tell you that.
So don't beat yourself. I say all that to say to kind of land this plane.
Right.
Don't beat yourself over certain labels or titles when people come up to you. Mike the comedian, Mike the
Right,
artist,
yeah.
Mike the actor.
Yeah, I'm just
However I
Yeah.
positively impacted you, I say thank you.
Right.
Right.
Nah, that's facts. 'Cause
We
I-
doing
I
therapy
like
on
cooking.
this episode.
No, yeah, but I literally had to say I hate labels. I cannot stand labels, and not saying like, oh, you can't call me actor. Not that way.
Nah,
But,
I
like,
feel you.
More labels that like people cannot see the scope outside of that label.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, swimming one day. Like I still want to open up my restaurant. I love cooking. Like I love culinary arts. Like like different things. You feel what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
and it's just random things. It is just like I like talking about politics and science and nature and spirituality, mental health. Like,
Bro, so many people don't know how many theaters that kind of shun me away during this process because are you a playwright? Are you and sometimes it kind of make me more recluse because it's like that wasn't on your website. Y'all had prices. Y'all told me when it can come
Right.
be checked out.
Yeah.
Like y'all trying to. But again, that's also a part of the play. Like, why are you asking me what I do for a living so you could decide how you want to treat me?
Right.
So you could decide how you want to respond to me.
Right.
So again, back to that F labels. Sometimes people use labels so they can know how they could pay you or know how to
Right.
respond to you. But also, base me off of my light. Base me off of my energy and how you choose to. And if you want to ask me if I dabble into a certain space,
Right.
I can speak to that. But if you think you're only going to look at me as a black dude who in here trying to rent this, but he don't meet the qualifications in my mind, it's like this doesn't have the capacity for who I am. And that is okay.
Right. And oh man, just to bring this to a close, but you're on your way, my brother. You're on your way, whether that's with therapy, whether that's with the field that you're in, you're on your way. The first step is, admitting like you don't know everything and you're going to seek the help to get to be not even healed, but to begin healing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you on your way. And I just want to thank you so much. I had fun. We had therapy. We had fun. We had a little bit of everything in this episode. For the people who don't know you or don't know where to find you, where can they find you on social media? What are some things that you got coming up?
Yeah. You can find me on Instagram, life.with.mike. On Facebook, Michael Houston. I got to get back on TikTok. Maybe not, to be honest. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
But what's coming up? I have a show December 28th. I don't know, depending on when y'all put this out. But December 28th, which is next week. And what's next in 2024 is to see more of Life with Mike. That was part of my conversation with my brothers today. They said, Mike, we want to see more of your life. Like, I mean, you post, but like, your whole Instagram name is Life with Mike. And that was the point that was the reason why I made that name. So I'm going to start documenting things and my journey. Even when I go back to New York for the first time in 6-7 years, I want to document that, see how things change. Just really getting into that. And I didn't do it because I felt like I was self-indulging. Everyone else records and all of that. But, sometimes you got to get out your own way.
Right.
It's like, let's just do it. But
right.
Yeah, you can find me in all those places, though.
Right. What you got going on?
I got one last question for Mike.
Okay.
One last, because I got to ask. It's on my mind, so I got to ask. Is there a part of yourself or a specific reason why you haven't gone back in so many years? Do you feel like there's something that you've been avoiding, running from? Do you feel like you're not at a certain status that you feel like you like to be like? You feel like it hasn't been something to go back to? And I know I'm throwing a lot at you, but I'm just curious because your family has come out here to see you. It's not like you haven't been around your family, but I'm curious to why you haven't been back in so long. And this probably can be a question or something you'll answer later on. You don't even got to answer it now, but it came up in me, so I wanted
Yeah.
to.
What's coming up in me is I've always said I was never homesick up
Okay.
until last year. For New Year's, I became really homesick, and I'm like, I really miss New York. Prior to that, I don't think I was homesick.